Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me this morning from Firehouse Station, however you want to say it, it's Adam Dorn, Fitchburg Fire Department. Adam, how you doing today?
Great, how are you, Jeremy?
I'm fantastic. I got to open up my notes here and make sure I'm ready to go.
Right.
Because we've got a lot to talk about today, and it's a serious topic. It's a recent structure fire here in the city of Fitchburg. Was on a very cold day.
It was.
And just a lot of stuff going on. And Adam, just start by first just reviewing kind of what happened that morning.
Yeah, so our guys got called out about 5:30 in the morning, and just about 8 minutes later they were on scene. It wasn't too far from their firehouse, but there's no real direct way to get there, so it took a little bit longer for us to get there. We got there and they had active fire in the garage area of the residence, and they had living areas above the garage. With the amount of fire that was presented, they took what we call a large line, or a 2.5-inch line, and started to extinguish the fire with that. Try to knock it down to see where else the fire was. Once they did that, they noticed that they had fire that had auto-exposed or extended into the attic area of the home. Based on that, they started to go interior and trying to fight the fire from the inside to limit the amount of damage as possible. So.
Yeah, and being that it was cold weather that morning, talk about what are some of the obstacles that you guys run into when you get there.
Yeah, some of the things that we've run into this time of year is if there's been snow, hydrants may be covered with snow because the streets department plows all the snow off the streets, and then they may get covered with snow, or they may be hard to get to because there's 2 or 3 feet of snow in front of the hydrant. So that's always something that we try to make sure that everybody knows. Clear out your hydrants, because any little bit of time that you can save us by getting to the hydrant saves us to help put out that fire.
It's kind of interesting too, because we had just interviewed the chief on Friday of that week, talking about cold weather, snow responses, and talking about hydrants being cleared off, and then,
it happens.
It happens.
Yep. So that's one of the big issues. The other issue is that we could always face a frozen hydrant, which means the water inside the hydrant is froze, the valve is froze, that we can't get water out of the hydrant. We did not encounter that day, thankfully. But if we would, that would mean that hydrant is unusable to us, and we'd have to find a different hydrant. Luckily for us, our hydrants are spaced somewhere between 300 and 500 feet apart in the city of Fitchburg, so not too far, but it's far enough that it may cause a couple-minute delay if we really needed water badly.
This house was on an intersection, pretty close to an
Pretty close,
intersection,
yes.
so you had spaces to get to.
Right.
Sticking with the cold weather, additional resources, they'll always be coming for structure fires, and so I'm hoping you'll talk about that. But also with the cold weather, we saw a Madison Metro bus pulled in as well. So talk about how all these resources come together.
Yeah, so when we get called to a fire, we get 3 engines and 2 truck companies. It might be a truck like we're standing in front of today, or it might be a squad, which is basically this truck without the ladder. It's a huge rolling toolbox. So we get that med unit and a chief or 2. When it gets to certain levels, or when we look at the situation and say, we need more help, that's when we call in for additional resources. And I believe we had the city of Madison come in to help us, and McFarland also came in to help us. That was just kind of our normal procedure because it was cold. But the other thing, because it was cold, we called for other not so typical resources on an everyday call that we have. We called into Madison Metro to send a bus for us so that we could use it as a warming area. One of the things that we really used that area for was because our air packs, the regulator inside of it gets froze. So we need a place that we can actually make it thaw so it can be used again. It's not a really good practice to be putting your mask in front of the exhaust of a truck to warm it up so it works again, because we're trying to stay away from all the diesel particulate, because that's what's causing us to get cancer and that kind of stuff. So by being in an environment where it's warm enough, we can actually warm up ourselves. We can warm our equipment up to make sure that it works, and it gives us a place to stay out of the elements. So if it's raining or snowing, we're not going to continuously be in the cold environment.
And other resources that do come out too, and I'm sure it's part of your protocol. I saw Salvation Army was out there. I'm sure Red Cross gets involved. How do those resources get activated? Yeah,
so when we have a fire, the way we look at it is that the Red Cross is there for the residents or the people that are affected directly by the incident. In this case, it was a fire. So the Red Cross came in and they helped them probably get lodging, clothes, food. They may even have been able to give them some cash. I know the Red Cross is able to do that at times. So the Red Cross helps the people affected. Salvation Army, they're there for the responders. So they brought in coffee and hot chocolate, and they had food and oranges, bananas, granola bars, drinks, that kind of stuff for us to make sure that we stay hydrated. Even though it's cold, we can still get dehydrated at a fire.
I believe it. And last but not least, with the home, it appeared to be a long-standing home. And from what I could tell from me observing, the fire was put out quickly to a point. There were still hot spots and stuff, but with the talk of older homes and open door, closed door, that whole thing, how do you summarize that?
Yeah, we were very fortunate that this fire took place in a home that had what's considered legacy construction, and that's where it's solid wood for the structure of the home. A lot of new homes are built with, they're basically glued together. Most of the places are glued together. The trusses are all just held together by gusset plates, where it's only a short amount of metal that's actually going into the wood to hold it together. So when that gets placed under fire and under heat, those items or materials degrade very fast and lose their structural stability. So for us, we were still able to go into a home because it was built out of true dimensional lumber. One of the things that somewhat contributed to a little bit of the spread of the fire is that the fire happened in a lower section of the home with a door being left open when he left. With that door being left open, it just kind of drew the fire out into another spot of the home, therefore just making it grow that much faster. So whenever you can, you want to make sure that you close the door to your bedroom. When you're leaving your house, close the front door, because that can all help either slow or stop the spread of that fire, or at least keep it from getting extremely bad really fast.
There you go. We're out of time, Adam. Always pleasure. Thank you for the info, and we'll be back with you next time.
Awesome. Sounds good, Jeremy.
All right. That's Adam Orr, Fitchburg Fire Department. We'll be right back. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.